call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, as the only man speaking on this motion, I'd like to thank the member for Cowan for moving it today, because it is a significant milestone that deserves to be acknowledged. I'd also like to thank the members for Curtin and Reid and Lilly and Lawler for also speaking on this important motion to honour Edith Cowan's legacy and election as the first woman to be elected representing West Perth in the Western Australian Legislative Assembly, and a proud nationalist, which is a wonderful legacy. And when I look through the Australian political biography of Edith Cowan and her legacy, I will draw on some of the similar remarks of the member for Lilly in the fact that she campaigned on her community service record, the need for law and order, and for women in Parliament to, quote, nag a little. Of course, we would never use that term today, and nor should we, because all forms of justice have to be fought for and go against the status quo. It's one of the reasons I'm such a strong supporter of free speech, because you always have to be able to speak truth to power. But more critically, she fit within the long legacy of Liberal women, and particularly was a fan of John Stuart Mill, who, of course, with his wonderful wife Harriet Taylor Mill, wrote The Subjugation of Women as part of the Liberal tradition of advancing equality for all people, including women. And, of course, some of my biggest political heroes, Deputy Speaker, are women. Many of them are not household names. It's common to refer to somebody like Margaret Thatcher, who's made a considerable contribution. But there are other ones, like the Republican-turned-Democrat Pauline Sabin, who had the courage to choose principle over partisanship in pursuit to address violence against women caused from the excessive indulgence in saloons, to recognising the shortcomings of the response and leading the charge to repeal prohibition in the United States. I actually have a distant relative, Catherine Stewart Murray, again somebody that may not be well known, who's a Scottish Unionist for the electorate of Kinross and Worth Perthshire. She has a number of legacies, but the one I'm most proud of is her attempt to topple the Chamberlain government, of which she was a part, because of his appeasement of Adolf Hitler as a strong supporter of Churchill in the formation before the Second World War. And of course, history proved her right. It was courage that led her to stand up. And of course, the electorate that I represent is named after one of Australia's most significant suffragettes, Vida Goldstein. While Vida would have had philosophical differences perhaps from myself and my party, her commitment to justice is no different. She fought for the right of women to vote, to stand for Parliament, and was the first to then stand for Parliament in the British Empire, and fought for women to buy property and to enter marriages on the same terms as men. She didn't just inspire women, but also inspired international suffragettes, of course including Emmeline Pankhurst and the movement in the United Kingdom. Deputy Speaker, like many in this place and at this time, I cannot attend the March for Justice rally today as commitments preclude. But we should never lose sight that does not mean that any of us lack solidarity with the objectives towards greater justice and addressing issues of equity and equality. Australia should be a nation where all people are treated safely and justly. There is no place for harassment or violence in any part of the community, including the workplace, because all diminish the dignity of people and they strip them of their agency. And I have continued to say, Deputy Speaker, the foundation of liberalism is empowerment, and great Liberals have always supported emancipation, empowerment and liberation, just like the people of Goldstein, and I follow in that tradition. I'm also proud to see that the inquiry into conduct in this place is led by a proud Goldstein constituent, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Kate Jenkins. And I can understand some Australians look at this place and question whether it will ever change, and whether there are those inside it that are listening. And that comes with frustration and anger. And as I've said at the time, whether we had to go through a postal survey to deliver marriage equality or not, the cause of human progress and justice has never been delivered on a silver platter. Good causes must be fought for, and as hard sometimes as it is a privilege to be part of that change that gives future generations a better and more just world than the one you inherited. And for those who seek equality and justice outside of this place, you have allies in this building on all sides of the chamber, regardless of their partisanship, whether they are there with you in person or in spirit. Now, of course, is a time to honour Edith Cowan's legacy. It's a legacy that is both something we should be proud of as a country, but also as a call to action for the future, to stand, to fight, to lead. Edith Cowan took those steps. And of course, we encourage all members in this place to continue that legacy and journey.
Order. The question